Yeah, he's gonna get this some deal. That's great.
Oh, hey, Bill, you got to sign in.
I know, Alistair.
Hello.
Now we're ready.
There you
Huh?
go.
Okay, we're fired up.
We're going to follow Johnny.
Yeah.
Chase car, Dr. John. Backyard, Village Jamestown, my God.
That's by the hotel.
Two most famous Jamestown people, Lucille Ball and Sammy Lamacuso.
Here we are, right there.
See a lot of people there. Oh, a ton of them. They're still there. Oh, that's it. Let's go back through. Let's go back down. Down there. Ain't going no hoop, I'll tell you what.
That was great. Oh, brother. See you, Eddie. How are you?
Sammy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are
You're
you,
running with
Busti?
your Dickie Ben, remember?
Oh, I sure do.
Man, that was a hoot, I'll tell you what. Yeah. At least we caught the nice weather. Right here, Sam. Sammy?
That's great. All that work. I want to go around again.
You did a lot of work. It's great, guys like you. That's great.
I thought you were going to wear your suit.
Well, they asked me to do that. Then I would have to let that on all day.
You pretty run over that cop, didn't you? You pretty run right into him.
Well, he was not supposed to be in my way. They told me I was going to go up by myself.
Hey, wasn't supposed to. Master! I thought you guys were getting up and went.
We towed the cars down there, 105 or 93. What cars, Frank Roman?
Sorry?
Seriously, though. There. You see, I only got one eye.
We didn't see him. Alright, well, that is gonna, I gotta really recount this and see, because
Does that mean you set up upstairs or downstairs?
these are upstairs. Oh, okay, so you're alright.
Randy Sweeney, just in case you have not met me, this is certainly an historic day, one that I know that will never happen again. Many of us that have been working on this project for this last year or more thought that we never could have dreamed that it could have been as exciting as it's been already. We've got racing legends from near and far, from places far. We had hoped to have a few that were unable to join us today, but certainly we're excited about everyone that is here, and you're going to get to meet all of them one by one here in a minute. You know, you stop and think about this little dirt oval there over there in Busti, 55 years in existence. You just can't imagine. That's been the thing that's been so remarkable for us, is how many lives have been touched by Stateline Speedway. Before we get started today, I want to take a minute to remember those that are not with us today. Those that have either set the helmet aside but have passed on. Especially, I'd like to take time to remember Stateline Speedway owner Francis Fritz Siemens, who just passed in the last week. I'd like to take just a moment of silence to remember all these that have left us in the recent year. Thank you. Take some time to introduce the sponsors. This wouldn't have happened if some folks didn't provide us some financial assistance. And I can't thank these individuals enough. I've managed to catch up with a few of them, and I hope that I can see each one of them and shake their hand and thank them again today. But I want to run through this list. Certainly Fritz and Jennifer Siemens at Stateline Speedway, Dr. John Lamancuso, Mike Latone at DNS Glass, Tim and Ed Schultz at the Schultz Management Company, Dave Turner from Turner Enterprises, Jerry Swanson from Lake County Dodge, Ron Madden from Ron Madden's Auto Body, the Stanley Squirt Johns family, MIF Incorporated, Jerry Nystrom from Nystrom's Garage, Bernie Holslager from Napa Auto Parts, Jim Roach from Faulkner Printing and Design, Louis Anderson, Ideal Coating Incorporated, the Chautauqua Lake Region Antique Auto Club of America, law firm of Fezenden, Laumer, and D'Angelo. Some individuals also helped us, Jerry Frank, Jim and Jean Scott, Ron and Vicki Blackmer, Blinky Litzinger, Guy Oakes, Greg Peterson, Randy Anderson, Randy Sweeney. And this last recognition, I wanted to make a special notation, the family of Gordon Mann. All of you remember that the Mann family, Gordon Mann, was the track photographer. And Toddy, his wife, Stephen and Dave, sons, these photos of Gordon Mann were invaluable. And we certainly can't thank them enough for allowing us the use of them. And also part of that collection, Jim Cady provided us some of the Mann photos too. So we really can't thank them enough for the use of those photos. But let's take a minute and give these folks a round of applause for their help. I'd like to introduce now the guy that has all the questions, the guy with the video camera, the interviewer extraordinaire, the associate producer, Greg Peterson, to say a few words about why did we do this. Oh, I should say that I forgot to mention, someone left a pair of glasses when they checked in. I'm not sure, they may be someone that's downstairs, but we'll keep them here if you're missing your glasses right now. Greg?
Thanks, Randy. This has been an incredible labor of love, and I can't thank you enough. All of those who are here, all of those who are downstairs, all of those who are attending the Robert H. Jackson Center. In life, real life, I'm an attorney, also president of the Robert Jackson Center, so we're thrilled to be able to host this event here as we did a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, through a chance meeting with Pam Brown, who was the historian of the North Harmony Historical Society, there was a track. There was a track which was owned and developed by the McNitt brothers, and Don McNitt is here, known as Rollable. And some of you may remember that. And through that chance meeting, we thought it would be fun to do a documentary. So we found some pictures, we found some movies, we did interviews, and we had an event here a couple of years ago about this time, honoring the racers, and the place was packed. I had no idea, and you must know my interest, my ability to understand racing really consists of pulling the keys out of my pocket, putting in the ignition, and hoping it turns over. So for me, it's been fun to get to meet the people who were the names that were really names inscribed on the sides of cars. Well, anyways, this is so successful that it was thought, gee, why don't you do Stateline Speedway? We thought, Stateline Speedway, my gosh, that's 50 plus years, and they really wanted to do something. So we negotiated. We negotiated the fact of, all right, maybe the first 10 years, those 10 years which I remember going there, and maybe 10 drivers, and we'll just do something very modest. Well, we started down this road, and I must say that we scheduled our first interview was with Emery Mann. Unfortunately, a week before we were to get together with Emery, he passed away. And I must tell you, Randy Sweeney, who is an incredible, wonderful part of this team, and Randy Anderson, who's a historian extraordinaire, we got into high gear. The next thing you know, we were interviewing Squirt Johns, Bobby Schnars, and so on. And we got our 10. We did our 10. Well, I decided, the guy who was the hardest one to convince, that this was so darn much fun. We heard so many stories from so many people. We then decided, who are all these drivers that were part of this first 10 years? And 50 interviews later, and you're going to see most of them here today, we were able to put together this movie. And it has been an incredible journey for the three of us. Some of you who are technologically savvy with computers, you may have seen some of these interviews which we've put on YouTube. They're a hoot. They're absolutely a hoot, because you'll be able to see those drivers who you recall from those first 10 years be able to tell the war stories. And somehow always Tom Dill's in the middle of those stories, and I don't understand why. but they always are. So it's been a wonderful thing for us, and we look forward to today, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of a backdrop, and again, tremendous kudos to everybody involved, and when you see the work product of All Sound, I'm sure you're going to walk away just extremely thrilled and also want to walk away purchasing one for your own Christmas gift. The guy that's going to set the scene today for the drivers and provide the introductions is Doug Smith. Doug Smith is an all-American character. He's an incredible player who's been part of the Jamestown sports scene for a long period of time. He was the Post-Journal from 48 to 56, back when Frank Hyde brought him on, 57 through 61. He was the Warren Times Observer in 62, the Erie Times News in 63 to 67. And during that time period, it was Doug Smith who wrote, reported, and occasionally would announce races at Stateline Speedway. More recently, he went on to work for the Buffalo News. Well, he moved to Buffalo. He worked for the Buffalo News, the Courier Express, Channel 4 News, and most of you may recall Doug Smith as the Cheap Gourmet. The Cheap Gourmet, the guy who would do a segment on Channel 4 News for about 8 years on various wonderful economic places to enjoy the finer arts. What's going to happen next, I'll be calling Doug up, who will be doing introductions. There will be 2 escorts, Leslie Lamancuso and Megan Peterson, who will be bringing out our honored guests here for the starting lineup. So without any further ado, let me introduce Doug Smith. Doug?
Thank you. I'll tell you, I dug down into the basement and found this clipboard this morning. I put the clipboard in my hand and I felt just as if I was 50 years ago walking into the pits at Stateline to find out who the new drivers were. It all came flowing back. Let us introduce our honored guests. You can't have a yesterday without a today. And to the Seaman family, the fans of Stateline Speedway, are eternally grateful for the style and enthusiasm for which they have kept this loud legacy alive. We introduce to you Jennifer Siemens. When I came back to Jamestown, I was given a very enthusiastic introduction to automobile racing by my boss, Frank Hyde, who was one of the few sports editors in America who thought that automobile racing deserved its place on the sports pages. And he talked to me so enthusiastically about these brothers, this team of owners who had then, this team of owners who were putting together Stateline Speedway. He said how honest they were, how enthusiastic they were, and they always had the driver's best interests at mind. So we've got 2 of them here, 2 guys we today call the Cruz brothers, Jerry and Don Frank, owners of Stateline Speedway from 56 to 84. Did we have them? Okay. I loved standing alongside Lloyd Williams up in that booth. He was the publicity man, and he was the public relations guy, and he was the public address announcer. And boy, I met Lloyd on the street and said this is the last guy in the world who would be a racetrack announcer because he was so cool and laid back. But when he picked up that microphone, Lloyd's quiet enthusiasm and letting the racing speak for itself was the voice, the very spirit, the very soul of Stateline Speedway. We introduce you now to his daughter, Kay Dolan. Kay Dolan, daughter of the late Lloyd Williams. Former pit steward at Stateline, Stan Moline. And another former pit steward, Howie Paulson. Representing his father, Cliff Coons, a former owner of Stateline Speedway in Sugar Grove, Cliff Coons III. Before I went to Stateline, they sent me out to a place called Watts, Where the Hell Is This Flats, where they had a racetrack which was the geographical center of all the collision shops in Chautauqua County, a track called Rollerball. It was unique, to say the least, and so was the person who was its owner, Don McNitt. Former jalopy racer at various local tracks. Jalopy, boy, there's a word I haven't heard for a while. And a one-time promoter of rollerball, which really needed no promotion, Blinky Litzinger. Still blinking after all these years. Former owner of late models, once driven by Ken Shearer and Jerry Nystrom, Guy Oakes. Former competitor at Stateline and a builder of a 1:64 scale model of the Speedway on display downstairs. He thought big and carved small meat, Tracy Thompson. Told you I wouldn't be able to get through this without a weep, and here comes one of them. In Warren, Pennsylvania, he took not only pictures of cars, but he was the family photographer for our family. We have got more legacies of Gordy Mann lying around our house. And we are glad to introduce now the wife of the late Gordy Mann, former track photographer, without whose help this film would not have been possible. Thank you, Toddy Mann. Now here's the starting lineup for this afternoon's late model feature race. I loved it when Sammy Mancuso went up the street with a cop following, and loved it better when he came down chasing the cop. Starting on the pole, one of the original owners of Stateline Speedway, its first ever flagman and driver, the #1 from Seneca, Pennsylvania, Marvelous Marv Thorpe. Starting off the pole from Youngsville, Pennsylvania, #4, Spicy Herb Gustafson. Starting third, in the #54 junior, coming all the way from Erie, Pennsylvania, managed to break through the border, car owner and driver, Joe Mobilia. In the #4 hole, substituting in the #5 for his father, Frank Liftner, from Navarre, Florida, is Leonard Liftner. Starting sixth, driving Dick Gilbert's #10 and 1/2 from Westfield, New York, is his son, Rich Gilbert. Fourth row on the inside, driving the U2, whose name was later stolen by a rock band from Northeast Pennsylvania, whose name is a place you never wanted to wind up, Johnny Ditch. In a fourth row on the outside, out of Allegheny, New York, that's the one without the H, #47, Fearsome Bud Fearsdorf. In the 9 hole from Chautauqua, New York, driving #77, Ken Shearer. Starting 10th in the Billy Layfield, number 121 out of Allentown, New York, is his wife, Betty Layfield. Sixth row on the inside. The first time I ever heard of a 9/16 wrench was the car of Dean Layfield, driven today by his brother Herb Layfield, a top-notch driver in his own right, usually found behind his own number 48 machine, Herb Layfield. In the sixth row on the outside, from high on the hilltop, is number 6, the Mayor, Eddie Kisco. And the other half of the great Kane Racing Duumvirate, 7th in the inside, also from Kane, Heil Russell's number 2, driven by his son, Douglas Russell. Starting 14th from Ripley, New York, in car number 90, believe it or not, Kenny C. Scheduled to be next on the grid was number 68 from Pittsfield, Pennsylvania, Dave Turner. Could not make it. Disqualified. Tried to run it on regular. Lost all his points. Dave Turner is not among us. He's well, but he's not with us. 8th row on the outside, driving number 3, the mayor of Garland, Pennsylvania, Jim the Great Scott. Next on the inside, and the number 39 from Sherman, New York, sometimes known as the Flying Farmer, sometimes known as the Airborne Agriculturalists, Johnny Whitehead. Freshly released from police custody after driving number 27L and setting a Prendergast Avenue speed record, Sammy Mancuso. Couldn't figure out why all those people were lined up out there. They were taking up a collection for his bail. On the inside of the 10th row, also from Jamestown, wheeling the number 97, Floyd Fanelli. Starting 20th, driving the number 40 from Jamestown. Never skip this man, Skip Furlow. The 11th row on the inside, driving the Warren, Pennsylvania-based 8-ball. Among some of us around Jamestown during those days, the 8-ball was also known as that which the Yankees would later be called the Evil Empire. And driving for his Uncle Emery, a dear, sweet man, I would find out in the pits, is Stephen Mahan, the 8-ball. On the outside of the 11th row from Erie, Pennsylvania, number 51, driver unanimously selected as the man we would least like to see in our rearview mirror, Tom Dill. Starting 23rd, number 44, it says from Jamestown, but I could never get these words out of my mouth without saying Youngsville. Meet Ronnie Blackmer.
Doug, you skipped one guy. We'll get him at the end. This guy right here. We'll get him at the end.
I'm really sorry.
starting number 24, starting 24th and hailing from Busti, New York, who would sometimes go around the track 28 times to make 25 laps in M1, the incomparable Bobby Schnars. Your announcer has been penalized 2 laps for overlooking Franklin, Pennsylvania's number 18, one of the great names in racing, Bill Wheeling. And pushing the field, but probably not for long, number 511 from faraway Brockway, the orange ogre of the oval, Stanley Squirt Johns. The green flag is up. Jim Ponder is trying to figure out what the hell lap we're on. Let's go racing, boys.
My name is Francis Siemens. I've owned Stateline Speedway for the past 25 years. I bought the track from Leonard Briggs, Don Frank, and Jerry Frank in 1985. The year 2010 will mark the 55th
unbearably cold and rainy weather, spectacularly beautiful Saturday nights, hundreds of daring young men with little more than a hope and a prayer, mechanical geniuses and driving legends, a time when every gas station had a race car, and the race cars looked like streetcars. Loyal fans who came week after week, always sitting in the same place. Fans sitting on the roof of the restrooms because there was nowhere else to sit. Pit parties that lasted till dawn. French fries served in paper cones sprinkled with vinegar and ketchup. Larger-than-life heroes and grandstand friends. A time when life seemed simpler and for many, the best years of their lives. On Saturday night, after the laps have been counted, after the fans have left the parking lot, after the lights have been doused, and after the last partier has deserted the pits, if you're very, very still, you might be able to hear the trees whispering among themselves. Do you remember the time?
And sometimes does. Car number 21 and 37 battling it out for the second spot. As Hal Russell in car number 4 and Paul Wilson in 28 battling it out for the fourth place. Bobby Stars at M1 still in the lead, sitting at a terrific pace in the feature event of the 80s. Almost a quarter lap ahead of the rest of the field. Jim Hicks in 37 still holding on to that second spot. Billy Bayfield in 21 third. Paul Wilson in 28 fourth. Hal Russell in car number 4 fifth. 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go for Bobby Stars in M1. Here we come. Jim Hicks in 37 still hanging on to
Let's have all the those that were introduced in the first 4 rows or so that were introduced, please stand. Let's give them a hand. These are our stars of our show today. I'd like to certainly thank Doug Smith for his introductions earlier. He certainly got us in the right frame of mind as we began this movie today. It's time to recognize the film crew. I think you can tell by this point in time, this first person I'm going to introduce, the writer, producer, director, put countless hours into this. Randy Anderson. Come on out here a minute, Randy. The associate producer, the guy with the video camera and all the questions, Greg Peterson. He's got his camera right now. And of course, it doesn't happen with someone to take all these pieces and put it together. Dave Hone and Flip Wilson. Come on, guys, come on out here and join those two. We traveled hundreds of miles all last fall, winter, and spring, and I was the guy in the back seat, Randy Sweeney. Thanks, everyone. I think you can tell the amount of time and passion that certainly went into this. I'd like to once again just thank the sponsors, the patrons of today's show. We couldn't have made this all happen without their financial support. Certainly ask the ushers if they would get ready to assist anyone that may need some help down the stairs. Also, any of the folks that are going to be selling the DVDs, if you would man the tables. Reminder again, the DVDs will be sold at the landing and downstairs today, $20 only. Want to keep in mind, you've probably seen this gentleman, Jay, just stand up so people know who you are. Jay Crosby is our photographer on the scene today. Now, he's taken hundreds of pictures. And if you'd like a copy of all these pictures, he's going to have cards around. They're out here on the table. They're on the tables downstairs. Grab one of these, make a deal with Jay to get a copy of all the photos he's taken today, because I know I'm certainly going to want one. Also was mentioned earlier, Tracy Thompson, his unbelievable creation, and when you get downstairs, you're going to want to look at it. It's a replica of Stateline Speedway, and I'm not going to say anything more. When you see it, it will speak for itself. Also, some of the posters we had outside, we're going to move those downstairs so that you can look at those, recap all the point champions, the various statistics that Randy Anderson does such a tremendous job capturing each and every day. And if you didn't get a chance on the lawn out there, there's a couple pieces from Squirt's 1961 Dodge. A couple people have taken credit for a few of the dents in the door, so but you might want to check that out on your way out. So drivers, honored guests, certainly thank you for everything that you've done. We'd like to ask all of you that just as we wrap up today, I think it's no more appropriate to wrap up the same way that Lloyd Williams would wrap up every Saturday night. Do your racing on the speedway, not on the highway. Thanks a lot.
Betty, here's a spot for you, Betty, right here.
Yeah, right here.
Kirby.
Let me get another. Kirby, we got one right here. Make it room for everyone? I think we got everybody at this point. All right, we'll just wait for these folks to come down.
Kirby, why don't you sit right there?
There was a gentleman that stood down the.
Anybody look like they're not here? Anybody not here who should be?
All right. Did everyone look up here? Here we go. Two or three of these. Look just like you won the 50 lappers.
Get the check.
Stay there for a little bit.
Yep, there's others taking. Yeah, go look.
You ain't changed yet. I'm my son. You remember JR?
We build them good anymore.
They'll send that to the old man. I can't. I don't know how to run the computer. Yeah. Exactly. And then they can get it. No.
That's about it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad you joined this part of it. Tom, did you recognize anybody? Never. This never happened.
This guy here, he used to get so he was so excited in the spring. You had to be a little careful in the spring. After that,
I can remember coming to your
whatever. Great guy. Used to stop and see me. And he'd drive a truck.
Is he?
A lot of good people here, you know. Just one.
I really think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to have some fun.
Boy, there's a big difference.
Milt Peterson. Yeah.